The bell above the restaurant door chimed softly as the woman stepped inside, pulling her 2 children close to her sides. The smell of fried food and warm bread filled the air, making the children's stomachs growl louder than they wanted to admit. She hesitated for a moment, her eyes scanning the crowded room, already feeling the familiar weight of shame pressing down on her chest. Her clothes were clean but worn thin, stitched and restitched over time. The youngest child clutched her sleeve, eyes fixed on a plate of half-eaten fries at a nearby table. The woman swallowed hard and guided them toward the counter, rehearsing her words in her head. She wasn't here to beg for money, she just needed food, something small, something kind. When it was finally her turn, she cleared her throat. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice barely rising above the clatter of dishes. "I don't have much, but my children haven't eaten all day. Is there any leftover food you could spare? I can clean, I can help, anything." For a brief second, the noise of the restaurant seemed to fade. A few customers glanced over, their expressions shifting between discomfort and curiosity. The cashier froze, unsure of how to respond, and looked toward the back. That's when the manager appeared. He was a broad-shouldered man with a tight jaw and impatient eyes, clearly annoyed at being interrupted. "What's going on here?" he snapped, already scowling before she could finish her sentence. The woman straightened, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "Sir, I'm just asking if—" "We're not a charity," he cut her off sharply. "You can't just walk in here and ask for free food." Her cheeks burned, but she didn't step back. "Please," she whispered, glancing at her children. "They're hungry." The manager's expression hardened. He leaned forward, lowering his voice, but the cruelty in it was unmistakable. "Take your kids and get out before you cause a scene." The children pressed closer to their mother, sensing the danger in his tone. Around them, forks paused mid-air. Conversations dropped to uneasy murmurs, yet no one spoke up. The woman nodded slowly, humiliation washing over her, and turned toward the door. She had no idea that this moment, this single, desperate question, was about to set something in motion that the manager would soon regret. The woman had barely taken 2 steps toward the door when the manager moved again. His chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stormed around the counter, his face flushed with anger. What should have ended with humiliation was about to turn into something far worse.
"Didn't you hear me?" he barked. "I said get out."
"I'm going," she replied quietly, tightening her grip on her children's hands. Her voice trembled, but she kept walking, desperate to avoid trouble. That only seemed to enrage him more. Before anyone could react, the manager grabbed her arm and yanked her back. A sharp gasp rippled through the room. The children screamed, one of them stumbling as a small paper bag fell to the floor, its contents spilling, 2 dry buns someone had secretly slipped to them. "Please, don't touch her," a woman from one of the tables cried out. The manager ignored her. "You think you can steal from me?" he shouted, even though everyone could see the bag had barely held anything. He shoved the woman toward the door, his grip tight and unforgiving. The mother lost her balance and nearly fell, catching herself just in time to keep from crushing her youngest child. Tears streamed down her face, not from pain, but from the crushing helplessness of it all. "Stop!" one of the children yelled, throwing himself between them. For a split second, the manager hesitated. The room had gone completely silent now, every eye fixed on the ugly scene unfolding. Even so, no one stepped forward. Fear held them in their seats, heavy and suffocating. "You're teaching them to beg," the manager sneered. "That's not my problem." He shoved the door open with his free hand, pushing the woman and her children outside. The bell rang violently as they stumbled onto the sidewalk. The door slammed shut behind them, cutting off the warmth and noise of the restaurant. Outside, the night air was cold and unforgiving. The children huddled against their mother as she knelt on the pavement, gathering the spilled buns with shaking hands. Her shoulders shook as silent sobs escaped her chest. She didn't notice the deep rumble at first, the distant growl of engines rolling closer down the street. But the sound was coming. The mother brushed the dirt from the buns as best she could, her hands trembling in the glow of the streetlight. She knew they weren't clean anymore, but hunger left no room for pride. One of the children looked up at her with wide, worried eyes. "Mom, are we in trouble?" he asked softly. She forced a small smile even as her heart ached. "No, sweetheart, everything's going to be okay." Then she heard it again, the low, thunderous rumble she'd almost mistaken for passing traffic. This time it was louder, closer. The ground beneath them seemed to vibrate as the sound echoed between the buildings. From the far end of the street, headlights appeared one by one, cutting through the darkness. The mother instinctively pulled her children closer, fear rising in her chest. She had learned long ago to expect the worst. The motorcycles rolled in slowly, deliberately, like a storm choosing its moment. Chrome gleamed under the streetlights. Leather jackets bore faded patches and symbols, each rider sitting tall and alert. When they finally stopped in front of the restaurant, the engines idled with a deep, powerful growl. People inside the restaurant noticed too. Through the large glass windows, customers turned in their seats, whispers spreading like wildfire. The manager froze behind the counter, his earlier arrogance faltering as he took in the sight of at least a dozen bikes lined up outside his door. The lead biker removed his helmet. His hair was streaked with gray, his face rough with age and experience. His eyes, however, were calm until they fell on the woman kneeling on the sidewalk, her children huddled around her, clutching dirty pieces of bread. He swung off his bike and walked toward them. "You folks all right?" he asked, his voice deep but gentle. The woman looked up, startled. For a moment, words failed her. She nodded slowly, then shook her head, unsure how to explain the knot of fear and humiliation twisting inside her. One of the children pointed back at the restaurant door. "He hurt my mom," the child said, his voice small but steady. The biker's jaw tightened. He glanced at the restaurant, then back at the woman. "You stay right here," he said quietly. "No one's going to touch you again." Behind him, the other bikers shut off their engines and dismounted, forming a silent line. The street felt different now, charged, expectant. Inside the restaurant, the manager watched through the glass, his mouth suddenly dry. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed.